Welcome to the Empowered Mind podcast with Joelle and Natalie Rivera. We are on a never-ending quest to master the power of our mind, develop a growth mindset, and explore the leading edge of positive psychology and human potential so we can take radical personal responsibility for creating our destinies and reaching our potential.
So let me ask you, have you ever gotten angry or said or did something that you're like, I can't believe I even said or did that? Or even had someone in your life that it was so outside of character for them to say or do something while they're angry? And you probably have. So why does that happen? Well, we're going to talk about that and the importance of understanding anger and really how to manage anger or how to stop it before it even begins, and what it's doing to your mind when you get angry to make you do and say things sometimes that you're going to regret later on.
And so by understanding how anger works, you can start to recognize the warning signs ahead of time, because the best way to deal with anger is to stop it before it starts. But then even once you have it, we're also going to talk about what you can do to try to calm it down and why you completely lose your mind when you're angry. It's like those times when you're like, what was I thinking? And the truth is that you weren't thinking at the time. You were overwhelmed by an emotion in your body. And that's exactly what we're going to explain.
So just to get a little bit in psychology into how the brain works, you have this little creature in your mind called the amygdala. Well, it's not a creature really, but it's a part of your brain that's the emotion center. So when you get angry, when you get emotional, that part is activated. And that is the part of your brain that doesn't critically think, it doesn't problem solve, it just reacts out of the emotions. And another thing happens is that you have a part of your front of your head, which is the prefrontal lobe, which actually turns off when you get angry. And that again is the part that helps you critically think, that helps you manage emotions, that helps you make decisions. So when you get angry, what happens is that you're not having that area of your brain that's really helping you become rational, that's stopping you from saying and doing things because you're working out of this like monkey mind of your amygdala that's just being impulsive and reactive and doing things at an emotional perspective.
And so what happens is something triggers you and it makes you angry. And all the anger really is, as far as your experience of it, is literally there's a chemical flushing through your system that is pulling all your attention into how you feel. Like he said, your prefrontal cortex is shut off. So you're not thinking logically anymore. You're just in raw emotion. And now this is actually how it works with all emotions, but anger seems to be more intense for most people. And so it completely consumes you. And once you're in that state, you're likely to do or say things that you wouldn't normally do, because normally you have your rational mind. But this is like going back to being like a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum where they don't have that rational mind yet. And so you get to regress back to being like a little baby. And actually, it's a lot easier sometimes to see it in other people than in ourselves. But the truth is that this is how it works for everybody.
And it's funny because it's kind of like the adult temper tantrum. You've probably seen other adults have their temper tantrum. And one of the interesting aspects of it is that it can also be extreme. And I've studied, obviously working in my field and working even as an investigator, I've seen things like this happen, where even one of the students, one of college campus that I had, was that what ended up happening was that they were getting divorced and he got angry with the situation, went to talk with his wife that was soon to be his ex-wife, and he lost it. He actually ended up trying to murder her, and I won't get into details and stuff like that, lighting himself on fire and things like that. And everyone was like, well, he was such a good person. He had such a good career. He had everything going for him. We never even realized that he had anger issues or anything like that. And what really happens is that our prefrontal lobe doesn't really shut off completely. But for some people, once they're really pushed to that edge, it's like that part of rationalization doesn't exist. And we can see it in people who are actually psychotic, where that part of their brain is not really developed. And anything like your brain, it's a muscle. So it's up to you to really work on this. That's why it's so important. If you have issues where sometimes you might get angry or something like that, or you react or say things the way you don't want to, is that you have to build that muscle so that when that happens, you're better able to really control yourself and really make rational decisions that's going to help you long-term develop better relationships and develop better career and really achieve your dreams and your desires.
And so one thing that you can probably take away from what we're talking about here is that once you're all the way into an anger response, which is really what it is. Something happens, it triggers it in your brain, and then you're basically just responding to the chemicals in your body. Once you're in that mode, that is not the time to try to be dealing with whatever situation caused you to feel that way. And this is the most important and the easiest example if you look at relationships. So whether it's, with your child or your parent or your spouse or partner, whoever it is, if either person is already angry, then trying to rationalize with them. Have you ever had those conversations where you're trying to explain something that's so obvious and the person is just not getting it and all they're doing is shouting at you? And it's because in that moment, they're not capable of having that conversation because their logical part of their brain isn't working. And the same goes for you. And so it's important to understand this because it can save you a lot of drama by recognizing, okay, I'm in a state of anger right now, or maybe the other person is. And so it's a really good time to take a break. And during that break, you can do some of the really simple things that we're going to tell you, which is how you calm yourself down or de-escalate a feeling of anger.
And what most people do is that they take a break, but then they're thinking about, well, I should say this next, or I can't believe that. And you have a whole conversation in your head that you start not realizing what was actually said because you just had like 20 minutes of your own conversation that gets you even more heated up. So
don't do that. Don't do that. No, a break means
yeah.
thinking about something else, doing something to calm your mind.
And really the way that emotions work is that you have about 90 seconds from when you first feel an emotion to be able to not let it snowball. So whether that's just taking a short break, even if you pass that 90 seconds, realizing the more you're in it, the more it snowballs. So one of the techniques that you can do is to basically take a break. You can put your hand over your heart and just listen to your heartbeat. Close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths and really focus on your heartbeat. And that's actually been shown to basically synchronize the blood flow again and to stimulate that prefrontal lobe turning back on. So just being able to take that time and really be centered. And again, it's not a long time that you have to sit there. You don't have to sit there for 20 minutes listening to your heart. Just 2 minutes of just really focusing on your heartbeat, just focusing on your breath and just breathing in and out slowly to really get yourself for your prefrontal lobe to turn back on. It can also be listening to something that's soothing or doing something that's going to relax you, that's going to distract you. Again, what you're trying to do is that you're trying not to feed that monster that there's going to be I just, I want to say mean things or whatever it may be, so it's like stepping away from it.
And so really the antithesis of anger, what solves the problem of anger is mindfulness. It's awareness. So when you're in a state of anger, it's because you got sucked into your thoughts, which then triggered your emotions, and then you get sucked into your emotions. So all you can see is that one thing that is driving you crazy. So mindfulness is taking back control of your thoughts. First, you start by just observing, okay, I'm angry right now. So you notice that it's happening. And then you ask yourself, what am I thinking? And by doing that, you're going to notice the thoughts that you're having. And the thoughts you're going to have are going to be negative. They're going to be something bad about the person, or, oh, they shouldn't have done this. But by observing them, just simply observing them, it's almost like it makes them less loud. If you've ever been like wrapped up in the thought or like imagining an angry conversation, it's like it seems really loud in your head. But once you are aware that you're thinking about it, it's almost like the voice gets quieter. And what that does is it gives you more control over what you're thinking. And once you're controlling what you're thinking, you can choose to think about something else. Do something to distract yourself. So all those things that Joelle was saying, like whether it's putting your hand over your heart and trying to pay attention to your heartbeat, or paying attention to your breath, or listening to a song, what that's doing is it's distracting your mind so that you're not focused on the thing that's making you angry. And by doing that, it's like it calms down that amygdala, so it doesn't have to be pumping out all these chemicals anymore, and it allows the frontal lobe to turn back on. And then once you're in this calmer place and you can think more clearly and you're in control, that's when you can deal with the situation. And for some people, you might want to wait hours, but for most people, a good 5 minutes of literally getting yourself off the topic and disconnecting from it will help you ease the anger, and then you can deal with the actual practical reality of the situation rather than making it worse by reacting to the angry feeling.
And even sometimes going for a walk, because you obviously have adrenaline going through your body when you're in that state. So going for a walk helps release some of that adrenaline, doing some exercise and things like that. Also becoming aware not only of your thoughts, you can focus, you can close your eyes and just focus on your body. And that's important because the more you recognize how your body reacts to emotions, the better you're able to recognize when that emotion is coming up. So if you are starting to feel angry and you take that time just to be present with your body, and you see that you're tensing your shoulders, or you're making the angry face, or you're doing
your fists.
doing something physically, then you can change your physical body as well. Because you got to remember that your mind and your physical body is associated with your emotions. So the way that the body recognizes it, even if I start smiling when I'm feeling a little angry, my brain's like, oh my, I got to send happy chemicals here because they're smiling. Because the brain doesn't know the difference whether you're faking it or not. So being able to recognize your bodily emotions and how your body reacts is important, because then you can catch it before it snowballs, and you can change it to help the body later on produce a different chemical, feel a different emotion as you move forward.
And so one of the biggest things for me that I look out for is my breathing. And that for most people is one of the first things that changes when they're angry. So you start to get heavy breathing, you're breathing faster. And what you're wanting to do, like Joelle said, is notice how it feels when you're angry. So that then in the future, you're having a conversation with someone and you start to feel those symptoms. You notice your breathing increasing. You notice that you start to feel warm or flushed. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm getting angry. And then you can take that time to take the deep breaths, to put your hand over your heart, to take a break from the conversation, to calm yourself before you get into a full-fledged attack of anger. Yeah. And what's that going to do? Well, it's going to help you, one, feel better, so that, because no one loves being angry. And two, makes it easier to deal with whatever situation it is. Because when you're in a state of anger, like we said, you aren't able to think clearly. And so how are you ever supposed to get yourself out of a situation that you can't even think yourself out of? And so the first thing you want to do is calm that anger, and then you want to address whatever is happening.
So the last thing, think of your amygdala, that monkey brain, as a little puppy that's scared and is reacting the way it's reacting. And all it wants is just to be pet, to be relaxed, so that your prefrontal lobe can finally activate itself so you can think rationally. So take that time to really pet that little puppy, get it to relax a little bit, let it to feel calm, and let it know that it's okay, that things are okay. And once you do that, you'll be able to move forward to really make decisions that are going to serve you and serve the people around you. And the fact is that your reaction is also part teaching other people about their reaction and how they can improve moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, fellow Freedom Junkies, for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to help us grow, please rate and share this podcast. You can also become a member of Freedom Nation. Visit freedomorbustpodcast.com and sign up to receive access to exclusive content and take the 21-day Happiness Challenge. As you know, we believe that entrepreneurship is the ultimate form of empowerment, which is why we created the Side Hustle Business Startup course for anyone looking to create their own income and take back their power. We offer an exclusive discount for our podcast listeners. Find out more at freedomorbustpodcast.com.